I never thought I would be writing something like this. I'm still overwhelmed. Still trying to process what I saw. Still not sure how my life flipped upside down so quietly. I'm 29 years old. I've been married for 6 years. And until very recently, I believed I knew my husband completely. We both work at the same company. A small firm. Nothing glamorous. Just steady jobs we were both recommended for through family connections. I had worked there for 6 years. My husband for 7. Our boss would sometimes bring his daughter into the office. She was a teenager back then. Around 15, maybe 16. He wanted her to see how the business worked, how offices ran, how adults behaved in professional spaces. At the time, nothing about that felt strange. She was polite. Quiet. Just a kid sitting in meetings, listening, learning. Years passed. Earlier this year, everything changed. Our boss announced that his daughter would start officially working with us. She had just turned 20. She wasn't replacing him, but she was learning to manage parts of the business while he stepped back. Some of us were hesitant at first. She was young. Very young. But she worked hard. Stayed late. Asked questions. Held meetings. Took feedback seriously. Honestly, she impressed everyone. That's when my husband started talking about her. At first, it seemed harmless. He praised her work ethic. Her professionalism. How mature she was for her age. Everyone at the office said similar things, so I didn't think much of it. But gradually, it became constant. At home. Over dinner. Before bed. She's so mature for her age. She's really impressive. She handles pressure better than most people. One night, I joked about him being immature sometimes. I told him I loved him anyway. He laughed, and then said something that stuck with me. Well, you were immature too. Unlike her. It stung. I told myself I was overthinking it. But it didn't stop there. The comments shifted. From her work. To her appearance. How she still looked good despite being busy. How she was gifted. How objectively attractive she was. Eventually, I asked him directly if he thought she was prettier than me. He paused. Then said. You're attractive to me. But objectively? She is prettier. That broke something in me. We fought. I told him to stop bringing her up unless it was strictly work-related. Around that time, he started staying late at the office. Working overtime. Picking up extra tasks. At first, I thought it was about money. Then I realized he stayed late because she did too. A few days ago, everything finally collapsed. My laptop was in for repairs, so I used his. We've always been open with devices. Passwords weren't hidden. There was no reason not to trust him. I was watching videos when I noticed a folder in quick access. It had her name on it. I clicked it. And my body went cold. There were over 1,000 photos. Screenshots from social media. Photos downloaded from anywhere he could find them. And photos taken without her knowing. Pictures of her working. Sitting. Walking. Some from angles meant to expose her body. Creep shots. Images that made my stomach turn. I couldn't reconcile the man I married with what I was seeing. Then I searched deeper. And it got worse. Hidden folders. Buried layers deep. Photoshopped images. Explicit edits. Images of her with him. Images of her in situations that were disturbing and degrading. I felt sick. I took photos of the screen for evidence. Then I closed everything. That night, I acted normal. The next day, I packed a bag and told him I was helping a pregnant cousin for a few days. I left. And for the first time since I found out, I could breathe. But I still don't know what to do. I feel betrayed. Disgusted. Ashamed. Not just because of what he did, but because of who he is. And I don't know how you come back from realizing you married someone you never truly knew. I stayed away for 4 days. 4 days of barely sleeping. Barely eating. Replaying those images in my head over and over again. Every time my phone buzzed, my stomach dropped. Messages from him. Asking where I was. If I was okay. When I was coming home. I answered only when I had to. I knew I couldn't stay away forever. And I knew I couldn't go back alone. So I asked 2 friends to come with me. Not to confront him. Not to start a scene. Just to make sure I was safe. When we arrived, the apartment felt wrong. Like it didn't belong to me anymore. The first thing I did was open his laptop. I copied everything. Every folder. Every image. Every file with her name on it. I put it all onto a flash drive. Then I searched again. Not her name this time. Other names. Women we worked with. More folders appeared. Not as many photos. Not as extensive. But they were there. Hidden the same way. Buried inside layers of folders labeled new folder. That's when one of my friends noticed something I hadn't. Some of the files weren't created on his computer. They were received files. Messaging app formats. WhatsApp. That realization changed everything. Because this wasn't just him. This was shared. We waited for him to come home. I packed a bag while we waited. Just essentials. Clothes. Documents. When he walked in, he froze. Seeing me. Seeing my friends. He tried to smile. Asked what was going on. I told him to sit down. I told him I had seen things on his laptop. His expression shifted immediately. At first, he tried to get angry. Asked why I was snooping. That lasted seconds. Then he went quiet. I told him I wanted an explanation. He asked what I had seen. Over and over. I realized he was trying to figure out how much I knew. So I told him. The photos. The hidden shots. The edited images. His face drained of color. He begged me to stay calm. Said he could explain. Said it wasn't what it looked like. He said he had developed attraction. That he struggled with it. That he needed an outlet. That what he did was a way to release tension without hurting anyone. I felt my hands shaking. I asked to see his phone. He hesitated. Then handed it to me. Hidden app. Buried deep in a folder. WhatsApp. Inside, one group chat. 4 men. All co-workers. And endless messages. Photos taken at work. From different angles. Different phones. Comments. Fantasies. Violent ones. About her. I started recording the screen. Scrolling felt endless. Every message worse than the last. He kept talking. Apologizing. Crying. Saying he loved me. Saying I would ruin our lives if I told anyone. All I could think was how calm he sounded. While describing something so disturbing. I finished recording. I handed the phone back. And in that moment, I knew. This marriage was already over. I didn't scream. I didn't throw anything. I didn't collapse on the floor the way people expect you to. I just felt empty. Like something inside me shut off to survive. I told him I was leaving. Not for the night. Not to cool off. Leaving. For real. That's when the panic hit him. Not guilt. Not shame. Fear. He followed me from room to room, saying all the right words too late. That he needed help. That he would go to therapy. That he would quit his job. That he would cut everyone off. He kept saying, "Please don't destroy my life." And I remember thinking how strange that sentence was. Because my life already felt destroyed. And he was worried about his reputation. I told him I wouldn't expose him. Not because he deserved protection. But because I wanted my freedom more than revenge. I packed what I could carry. I left everything else behind. The drive away from that apartment felt unreal. Like I was watching someone else's life through a window. For weeks after, I barely functioned. I jumped every time my phone rang. I barely slept. I replayed everything. Trying to understand how I missed it. How someone could look at you with love. And still be capable of something so dark. I blamed myself. For trusting. For staying. For not seeing the signs earlier. Therapy helped. Slowly. Painfully. I learned something important. That people like this don't live double lives. They live fragmented ones. They compartmentalize. They can be gentle in one moment. And deeply unsafe in another. Both are real. That's what makes it so confusing. I filed for divorce quietly. No dramatic posts. No public explanations. Just paperwork. Silence. And rebuilding. There are days I still miss the man I thought he was. The version who made coffee in the morning. Who held my hand in public. Who talked about the future like it meant something. But I no longer miss the relationship. Because love should not require you to disappear to survive it. And healing, I've learned, doesn't come from understanding everything. It comes from accepting that some things were never meant to make sense. I don't hate him. That surprised me. For a long time, I thought hatred was the only appropriate reaction. But hate keeps you tied to someone. And I didn't want to be tied to him anymore. What I felt instead was grief. Not for the marriage. For the illusion. For the version of my life I thought I was living. There's a specific kind of pain that comes from realizing you loved someone who never really existed. Someone who wore kindness well. Who blended in. Who looked normal. That realization changes how you see people. You start noticing silences. Deflections. The way someone avoids certain questions. Not out of paranoia. Out of awareness. I moved into a small apartment on my own. Too quiet at first. No familiar footsteps. No shared routines. Just me. And my thoughts. Slowly, the quiet became peaceful. I started sleeping through the night again. I laughed without forcing it. I stopped checking my phone every 5 minutes. The fear faded. What stayed was clarity. I realized something important. I didn't lose my marriage. I escaped something I didn't fully understand yet. And that matters. Because sometimes the most dangerous situations aren't loud. They don't announce themselves. They hide behind normalcy. Behind good men. Behind happy couples. Behind everyday life. If you're listening to this, and something feels off in your relationship, pay attention. Discomfort is data. Confusion is not love. And your intuition is not overreacting. Leaving doesn't mean you failed. Sometimes it means you listened. Before it was too late. I don't know what his life looks like now. And I don't want to. Mine is finally my own. And that's enough.